Today, we're talking about chaining up the big truck here. Somebody's requested that I do a video on how I chain them up. So let's get into it. I'm just getting out of this thing. I've been in it for 3 weeks. I just spent 5 hours pressure washing it, wiping it down, cleaning it. And when you're living in a truck that long and cleaning this thing, it's hard on the back. My back is really sore. So I'm going to struggle with this one today, but just for you, John, I'm doing this. Now, this is what I was taught on how to chain up. I'm no expert at it, but I've done a lot of off-road trucking, and most of it has been tanker in Alberta. And sometimes you're chaining up 4 times a day. Highway truckers, you guys might be running singles, which is you just have to chain up the outside tire. But when you're doing off-road, you're running the triples, so you're chaining up both tires and probably 2 axles. So you got to throw 4 sets of chains on, and these are roughly 80 pounds. So you add a bunch of mud to those, and they're over 100 pounds. And if you got to chain up 4 times a day because you're coming in and out of roads in the bush, it gets hard on you after a while. It's exhausting. The trucks that I used to run, the tankers, they would come with enough chains to do 2 axles there, 1 steering, and usually you had an extra one for the very back axle on the trailer. Because sometimes when you're running a super train, there's tricks involved. Let's just get it out there. I'll show you some of the tricks that I've had to learn in the bush. Let's say you're coming down an icy road and you're running Super B, so you have 2 trailers, and your trailers are slipping and sliding all over the place. What you used to be able to do, because you had the little trailer brake handle on the dash that would lock up your trailer brakes, was you could throw a chain on the very back axle. And when you're coming down a hill and you go to touch your brakes and your trailers start fishtailing all over the place and jackknifing, you could apply your trailer brake a little bit, and it would make that back axle drag the trailer and keep it straight. I don't recommend you guys try these kinds of things on the highway. This is like emergency stuff that I had to do. Because there was a lot of hairy situations and you had to literally get from A to B. You needed to get out before weather changed and it got worse. When you're in the mud and you have 4 sets of chains on, so 2 axles, your steering is almost non-existent. You're trying to make a turn and you're trying to keep that tire in the tracks, and it just does not want to stay. You got to throw a chain on that tire. And those can be 80 pounds because the tire's so wide. So just 1 chain on that tire allows you to have some better steering. And you're not going fast when you're doing this, just so you know, because when those chains come apart, they start destroying stuff. They start ripping off fenders and hooking on things. And chaining up is just take your time. It is what it is. And if you're new at it, you're starting a new job, definitely ask for advice. Anyone that can show you. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend. Don't, try and wing your way through it and just hope for the best. Don't hesitate for ask advice from anybody. The more you know, the better. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull these chains off and show you how to lay them out, because a lot of guys don't put them back on correctly. So we'll lay them out, and I'll show you how to throw them on, and I have a little measurement that I was taught to make your life easier. Occasionally when you're having to chain up, a lot of times the front tire will have a fender that makes it almost impossible. Auto haulers, you can't even chain those things up because there's no clearance. Normally I chain up the front axle because, the weight's right here on the bunk, depending on where your 5th wheel plate is. But normally I chain up this axle. If I only got to do 1, if I got to do 2, then I'll do that one. I've driven trucks where the 5th wheel plate's all the way back because the scissor trailer was too short. So you couldn't have the fifth wheel plate up there. So I actually had to chain up the rears just for traction purposes. That's where the weight was. But in general, I start with that one and I go with that one. That's what I was taught. Now, a lot of you truckers have way more experience than I do, so feel free to leave, comments on any advice you can give these guys. All right, so we're going to pull these chains off. We're going to lay them completely open with all the claws facing the sky. So let me set the camera up. I got the little tripod here and see if I can lift these off. John, you're killing me, man. You're going to want a set of gloves. Normally, if you're chaining up, you're either in mud, snow, and ice. They're going to be wet and dirty. Usually they're full of ice. You got to kick them, get all the ice off, all that kind of stuff, or mud. You're going to want to wear raincoat, coveralls, whatever, because you're going to be filthy no matter what. See? These are not put away correctly. When you don't put them away correctly, they get all tangled up. And sometimes you're so tired from throwing chains and fighting with the mud that you don't care how you put them away. Now, the other thing I was taught is on the ice you want them tight. In the mud you want them loose because the mud's going to pack in there. It's going to fill up between the duals. It'll be just completely packed with mud. So technically once the mud gets in there, they're not loose. And getting them apart is even more difficult. But on the ice, you want them tight. All right. So as you can see, all the claws are facing the sky. I put the cam locks at the back of the wheel. What we're going to do is we're going to flip them over so that the claws are on top of each other. And that way you can grab the center row and just throw them on. Now, I'm so tired and winded today that I'm shaky. I can't even set my camera up right. My arms are so tired. So. Now it looks like you got one row. Now we're going to grab it right in the middle, lift it up, and just throw them on the outside tire. So I'm calling that the middle. You want to be pretty even. Makes your life a lot easier. Then we're going to grab the top one and just throw it over the back tire. Cam locks on the inside of each tire. Now, at the front, here you have a long set of links. You want to run that down the side. You have one down that side, and you have one in the middle. See? All the claws are facing upwards. We don't have slack. Everything's sitting just nice. Now what we're going to do, because we need this tire to rotate so the cam locks are about here because they're down there. So this is the trick. Let me just move the table. What you're going to do is, here's your door. The front of your door right here, you're going to draw a line in the ground. We have a line for the front of the door. Now you're going to move the truck the distance of the door. So the back of the door will be in line with that. Look at that. Perfect every time. Let me just make an adjustment here. I had no idea how I was going to film this. That should be good. Oh. Now, I like to do the inside one first, but just for camera purposes, we'll do it this way. Normally what I do is I hook, a lot of times, see you have this much slack. We could go all the way to that chain link. If you do too much on the first one, oh, hang on, got a phone call. That was the owner of this company wondering why I'm not coming back to work. So I had to kind of take that call. All right, the sun's definitely affecting us, so I got to block it while I'm filming this. So if I take too much off of the first one, and I'm doing that one over there, then your second one, they might be offset. So a lot of times I'll just hook one on, and then you just click that in. Then I'll go do the other side. A lot of times it might make your life easier to do the middle one. You'll see the middle one is just that. I'll see if I can lean the camera in the tire. So let's just do it that way, shall we? Come on, camera, work with me. Damn it. So what we're gonna do, I'll do it with one hand. Now, I just hooked the top link, and a lot of times that just makes your life easier. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna get all muddy. Everything's gonna be muddy when you're doing this. So, let's just do this one. Stop messing around. Now, if the chains are new, you might barely only get one link, and then the chains are going to stretch, and you're going to have to adjust them down the road. So, let's just do as much as we can on this one. So what we do, you get it tight, and then you take your slack, you take the end one and put it on there. That way you don't have that chain as you're twirling around, because that chain might catch on something unsuspecting. So we're going to do that to the other side. Then we're just going to pull up any slack we have here. So I'll just do that. Get an extra link or two out of this one. there you go. Right now, we're chained up. And what's probably going to happen, especially you're going to do all four, and you're going to be shaky, tired when you're done. And then you're going to move the truck. If you move it 30, 40 feet, they'll all loosen up. And then you can tighten them up again. They're not going to be all in the same spot once you move this truck, because they're not all exactly the same. They stretch differently. So when you go to take these off, they're not all going to be in the same spot if you did them all at the same time. You may have to undo this one and that one, and then you probably got to move the truck again and undo the other ones. So you get the idea. Now that we're chained up, we've done our off-roading. Occasionally, if you can't put the chains on this way, like you know how I pulled the head, occasionally you might be on an uphill slope and you're not capable of pulling ahead, so you got to do it in reverse. You may have to back up to do your adjustment on the cam locks, you know, with the door trick. So sometimes what's happened to me, I had this happen in this truck a couple of weeks ago, was I was driving down the highway, tires were all hot from the highway, and I got into the mill and the whole parking lot of the mill was all ice, and I slept there for the night till morning until they could unload me. And because my tires were hot, they melted down in the ice, and all, like literally the trailer, the truck, because I had a load of logs on, all that weight, I melted down in the ice. And so I couldn't move in the morning when I got up. So I literally woke up in my day and had to chain up. And I couldn't pull the truck ahead because of all of the ruts on every single tire. So I was just sitting there spinning, and I actually couldn't get the chains on. And sometimes you got to fight with it, and you got to wedge the chain underneath the tire so it can get traction. In that scenario that day, because every single axle had a rut under it, I couldn't even get the chains under, and I had to get a great big machine to push the logs from behind to get me out of those ruts. So now we're going to take the chains off. You've gotten out of your situation. So what you're going to do is, to me, it doesn't matter which one you undo first. It's whatever is going to make life easier to get them off. Like in the mud, the center axle is usually, or the center chain is usually the worst because there's so much mud packed in there. So I like to undo the outside ones to make them a lot looser, and then the inside one. Now then you grab your chain, throw it out that way, grab this one, and throw them out that way. Now I can just back the truck up that much and my chain's free. If you have both axles done, a lot of times it's easier for you to just drive ahead so that they're back there. Depends on where your chains are hanging too. So I'm going to pull these chains out, and then I'll show you how to hang them up. So what I like to do is lay them out the same way we had them when I was putting them on, with the cam locks at the back and all the claws facing the sky. There's a reason for that. See, a lot of people think truck driving is just driving around in a truck. Oh no, not at all. Okay, so the reason I do it this way is because then I can take the ends with the links and throw them where the chains hang. I can feed them on that way, so that when it comes time for me to chain up again, the cam locks are on the outside. I can just grab them, pull them out, lay them by the tire, and they're exactly where I need them to be. So again, we're going to grab the center one and just start feeding them on. In just little sections so that they don't hang down too far and drag on the road. And that is really common. You see how low these are? What'll happen is your cam locks or your chain links will start dragging on the highway, and you'll go to chain them up and the end will be gone, and now you're really stuck. So you want those cam locks a little tight. So let's just do that. And there you go. We're all chained up. So sorry it took so long, but I wanted you to have as much information as possible. And I've never gone to school, never been taught anything. This is just stuff I've learned from guys in the oil field that taught me. And you're off-roading in a machine this big. So it can get serious out there. Learn as much as you can. Get all the pointers possible to make your life easier, because getting stuck sucks. You guys have an awesome day.